A. Younger Street, Barangay 137, Zone 12, Tondo, Manila.
Lumipas at magbago ang panahon. Iisa at nakatatak ang kauna-unahang himpilan sa paghahatid ng serbisyo publiko at balita. Ito ang Radio Mindanao Networks. Higit-6 na dekada sa paglilingkod sa masang Pilipino. Sa Metro Manila, ito ang DZXL 558 Radyo Trabaho, ang inyong gabay sa hanap buhay. Malaki man o sa maliit na paraan, pwede kang maging bayani sa sarili mong kakayahan. Kwentong Bayani. Tunghayan ang mga storya ng bawat individual at organisasyon na siyang magbibigay ng inspirasyon sa mga komunidad, lipunan at sa bawat mamamayan. Kwentong Bayani. Kwentong Bayani. Kasama si Jojo Armenta at Radyoman Jenny Pahilanga sa Kwentong Bayani. Dito sa DZXL 558 Radyo Trabaho tuwing Sabado alas 10 hanggang alas 11 ng umaga at sa Facebook page ng RMN DZXL 558 Manila. Kwentong Bayani. Kwentong Bayani. Hatid ng Benita at Catalino Ya Foundation at ng RMN Networks. Kwentong Bayani. Kwentong Bayani.
Magandang umaga po ng Sabado sa inyong lahat. Huling araw tayo ngayon sa buwan ng Abril at araw ng Sabado. Welcome po sa programa Kwentong Bayani, hatid sa inyo ng RMN at ng Bcyf. Ako po si Radyoman Jenny Pahilanga at syempre kasama ko ang aking partner na balita ko mukhang magkikita na kami nito sa Sabado. Partner Jojo Armenta, good morning.
Good morning po sa inyong lahat. Good morning sa ating mga nakikinig. Isang magandang Sabado na naman sa ating lahat. Sa lahat po ng ating listeners sa radio, sa live stream sa Facebook, sa YouTube, i-share nyo na po ito dahil nako, partner Jenny, sobrang may inspire tayo sa umagang ito.
Nako, napakabigante ng ating mga guests ngayon pero excited din ako for next Saturday. Pero usog wag yan wag maudlot. Anyway, partner, today is April 30 and April pa nga sabi mo, partner, last week ay technology pa rin natin month ang April.
Yes, so we cap off actually yung technology month ng BCYF, and this today actually we're going to intro our media month kasi sa June we're going to have media month sa BCYF. So yung the whole May we're going to prepare our listeners and audience na to talk about media and how we can use media to create social impact.
Wow, that's great. Lalo na malapit ng eleksyon, 9 na araw lang.
Diba? Kailangan natin. Very relevant actually yung mga topics natin for this whole month of May.
Okay. At dahil dyan, partner, umpisahan na natin dahil excited na tayo sa ating mga pag-uusapan sa umagang ito.
Alright, so ipakilala ko na partner Jenny ang una nating panauhin ngayong umagang ito. He is a Spanish writer and newspaper journalist who has focused primarily on Galicia and the Philippines. He was the director of the Royal Academy of the Spanish Language in the Philippines from 1994 to 2003 and is an associate of the Academies of the United States of America, Chile, El Salvador, and is a former director of Instituto Cervantes in Manila. An awarded author and a Filipino by heart, Mr. Jose Pepe Rodriguez. Good morning, Sir Pepe.
Thank you. Good morning. What a pleasure.
Sir Pepe.
How are you, sir?
Sir, how are you, sir? Buenos dias, sir.
Wow.
Buenos dias. Very good. I love it.
May nagturo sa akin.
Congratulations.
Love it.
Okay.
Kamusta ka? How are you, sir?
Okay, I'm very happy to be with all of you this morning, to be with the listeners of Radio Mindanao Network, and especially with the partnership with the Benita and Catalina Yap Foundation. So for me, it's an honor, as I said, to be here almost for a few minutes, because I'm just staying in the country for a while now. So I'm really a little bit in a hurry, like any journalist, always in a hurry.
Right.
Okay.
O simulan mo na, partner Jenny.
Oo. Ano pala, meron ako ditong magaling na nagtuturo. Ano yun? Ketal, meaning how are you pala, no? Diba, Sir Pepe? Okay.
Thank you. I have to say in Spanish already, ¿cómo está usted?
Okay po. Anyway, Sir Pepe, my first question po for you this morning, how did you get involved po with BCYF? We want to know, sir.
Well, it all started as a very friendly relationship with Mr. Antonio Tony Yap. I had met him perhaps 20 years ago. And after this, we met and we talked and we shared. Most important is when you meet somebody, sometimes it's little by little you start a relationship and you see what we have in common. And afterwards we became a family relationship with his family and my family. And especially during my stint as director of Instituto Cervantes in the Philippines, Instituto Cervantes, as you know, is the cultural arm of the Spanish government. We partnered in a cultural project with the BCYF. We partnered in a cultural project that we brought some cultural affairs from Spain and the foundation to their part here in the Philippines. So in short, we have been maintaining a personal and professional relationship through the years with friendship and, of course, with responsibility too. This is the story.
Right. No,
that's great.
I have met Sir Pepe just once, and I was starstruck because based on what I heard from Sir Toby, you're the one who put the Spanish display on MRT and LRT. Is that correct?
Yes. We call it. This was perhaps one of the most beautiful projects I have, which was being called Versos a Metro. Okay, this was the concept idea was is for the Filipinos and for Filipinos in general. I mean, it's focused on the Philippines because we are here. It's just to share with them. It was based on poetry. Okay, so poets from big poets, from Latin America like Pablo Neruda, or poets from Spain, etc., and Filipino poets likewise. They can be seen, so you can see what is our how we are. I mean, how is the brotherhood between two countries who were sweet and sour to almost 400 years? No? But you can see that there is something common there. There is the language, and the language is culture behind. And so sometimes, I love that project because sometimes I ride in the LRT or the MRT, and I sit down in a station or and I see the people talking. And they discuss, and they said if that word belongs to us or they really is important, because it reached the point that we don't know what it belongs to us. So language is like that; it belongs to us. Whatever it is a common property, it's a patrimony of the country, and it's the universal patrimony. Yeah.
Right. And speaking of that, the language, the writing, sir, can you share to us your journey as a journalist and what made you stay in the Philippines?
Well, I can start with the second question. To make me stay here is my wife. I met a Filipina in the 70s in Spain, and it's already 46 years already. So
Wow.
a lot of years. So we have two children which were born and raised in the Philippines. They're not here today. So it is my lab started there. No question at all. But I can say that I'm very happy of being a journalist for the past, I was a journalist to my career more than 30 years until I joined other things. So it is always a journalist, I'm still a journalist, and just writing and doing my things. Always I look at through the years at any story with a bright and sunny side. I look at the stories with the significance of the issue, whatever issue it is, and trying to be close to this thing. This is for me a must. If you are not close to this thing, for journalists it's better to abandon journalism, because journalism you must be there. In the Philippines, I was very happy and very fortunate to cover the events from the martial law to the restoration of democracy and afterwards, no. And I would like to say, that whatever you do, you have to do it, or you have to apply with the rules of being a bit respectful attitude and intellectual generosity, I would say.
Okay, that's good.
This is for me a must. No?
Yeah.
And don't forget that we as reporters we are very privileged to be witness to history. And so this is a very beautiful thing that sometimes we forget. I mean, that's something that only us as reporters, as journalists, are there. And it all depends upon us. With be able to took the events. In my case, I always put passion, compassion, and of course, candor. It's something part of the story.
Yeah, okay, sir. Sir Jose Pepe. Anyway, this is a very good question for you, sir. And because also his partner Jojo and of course, we are very grateful to have you this morning. And you can share with us, sir, what do you think is the role of media? This is a very good question in creating social impact.
Well, media is always attached to responsibility. You see, if we don't develop responsibility in media, it's better to And this is to me the biggest problem. Especially now, especially in the past few years, since the beginning of internet. I was very fortunate in a sense because I started writing with a typewriter. Okay, and going to a telex, and when I travel around the world, I have to bring with me. There is no credit cards at all, so I have to bring a telecommunications card. But we have to go to the nearest post office in Cambodia, in Chile, in Vietnam, and wherever. So things have changed too much. And today, and the advantage is that we were witnessed there. We have to be there. Today, internet. It is really a tremendous arm. It's a fantastic thing. But the problem is that those are the associate problems with the internet. You don't know really what are you reading. Whether you're reading is true or is not true. Sometimes people are saying, it's a cut and paste sometimes. So and we develop what we call the so-called fake news.
Fake news.
So when you wake up in the morning, and you go to your regular internet or sources or whatever you like or newspapers, you have to be careful. You have to be careful and be, because if they are not responsible, don't forget that media at the end of the day is a business also. It's a business. There is interest behind. And so we have to combine things. But for me, the most important issue here is how the journalist, I mean, as person, no matter how it's a business and whatever, how responsible he or she is. This is the question: how to develop that responsibility. And that responsibility is the key. I mean, to have a better society. Because you don't have a better information, society will not progress, definitely.
Right. I like that he mentioned about the fake news, no, partner Jenny, because it's very, very, it's a rampant thing in the society.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sir. Actually, I want to have.
It's election time, so you can see. It's the best example. Election time, you can see how people is manipulating from all sides. I mean, from any color, all sides of the story. So, the question,
actually, I just want to ask. I want to ask Sir Pepe a follow-up question with that, because we're talking about social responsibility and you mentioned fake news. Based on your experience, and of course I know you've been in this journey for so long, what do you think can the government do? How can we avoid fake news?
Well, it's not an easy story, frankly speaking. It's not an easy story. Me personally, having attacked right and left. Okay, in internet, being attacked for other reasons. So legally, it's so difficult to go after. You see, because I have some problems. I try to do legal, and the lawyers will tell me that this is a part of stuff, because there is not a clear definition, worldwide definition of how to an internet. I mean, how you protect yourself. Okay. You see, I give you an example. One of my books, I went to have the copyright, and afterwards somebody was outside there waiting, and he told me that anyway, this copyright is like a paper for nothing, because we can see your book later in internet for free. You say it's very painful. I felt that they really very painful, no, very painful. This you say, but it's true. I mean, they can get it, they can buy one, copy, and later on you fight it. But at the end of the day, today, I think so. It's more on the. It all depends of to me. Government has to educate people. If we don't invest in education, we cannot have a good society. We cannot have good people. We cannot have nothing. So you have to look. I don't mention nothing. Just you look what is the investment, what has been done in education here anywhere. So education will determine the how our people. Not now, in the future, etc. So if you don't educate the people, you cannot expect better results. So these people will be. These people are really prone to get, those fake news. Okay, because everybody today has a smartphone. All right, and everybody, practically everybody can have access to that. And, but not everybody has access to good things. I mean, or prepare or is educated on how to go about it. And this is the problem. I mean, because you can entertain yourself the whole day with news. You can waste your time, but you go to Facebook, to Twitter, to whatever. No? Okay, so you can waste your time doing things or reading things, but how can you if you are not properly educated?
All right. So the word is properly educated, Sir.
I think the foundation, the foundation can do a great job, and that are you doing now through the radio too, as if to in a way to help to educate people.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, very well said. But anyway, Sir Pepe, would like also to ask, based on your experiences, about being a media practitioner, of course, what's the best thing about you as a media practitioner, Sir Pepe?
Well, this is a personal thing. You see, for me, as I mentioned to you, journalism, as you must know, because it is often said that journalism is history in a hurry, no? Okay, but at the end of the day, it's history, and so I was very fortunate. For example, but I have because I cover the major events, for example, in Asia in the last transformation of Asia. When I arrived here, after the Vietnam War, it was a total different Asia. Right? Korea was a poor country. China was a very poor country. Vietnam was starting the little by little to recover after the war was there, etc. So today you can see the transformation, how these countries, Indonesia was with Suharto, and so on and so forth. So my really perspective, the perspective of a journalist must be there. How it was, how it is, and how this thing arrived. How can Korea, that I remember traveling there, I have to bring my own bread because it was so difficult to find it, and today is a prosperous country. Well, that's the story. So it will be said, the perseverance is one of the hard work, no question, hard work, perseverance, etc. So, but as a journalist, I think so. The question is when you look back in your career, when you have written tens of his stories, 10,000 or more stories in your career, so you can see yourself. How myself sometimes I was really accurate, or do I try to do my job sometimes I was too much in a hurry, okay, and I look at not with the proper perspective, only one side or two sides. In our hands depends also a lot, because whatever we say, whatever we write, it will influence people. And so if we are not ourselves responsible, and sometimes we are in a hurry, as I said, and we don't get the other side of the story, okay, or we don't have time because we have a deadline. Let's not forget, this is what the people doesn't understand very much. We have a deadline. We are paid for it, so we cannot wait. It's not tomorrow. It's not tomorrow. It's today. And that's something that it will depend very much on how, and most especially in the schools. In the schools, not only journalism. In the schools, they have to be. My humble opinion, it must be, teach the people. How responsibility starts from level 1, from family, from grade school, etc. And doing things one. This is the stories, for example, how examples. How this person wrote this thing and how the other person see with another perspective, maybe totally different. why, what's happening here. So that's education. At the end of the day, to me, the key is education.
Right. That's true. Yeah, so that's why the role of the schools are really very critical.
Critical in the
Yeah.
family. But first family.
Right,
First
right, family.
First
Correct.
family. If you can see the responsibility in the family, the so-called social responsibility starts there.
Yeah.
This is the first one. You cannot talk about the environment,
Yeah.
you can talk about ethics, but it's social responsibility. Number one is ethics. Okay. After that, you can talk about the environment, reduction of carbon dioxide. This is different story. But first, ethics, and the ethics must be at home. So you don't do the ethics at home. Well, the school they can do something, but at the end of the day, you are back
Correct.
At home.
house. See,
Yeah.
Yes.
so that's to me the important thing.
Right. So, sir, since we're talking about social responsibility, so this question is going to be also personal and through your profession. How can you encourage people to become socially responsible?
Well, it's back to square one. I mean, to be a social responsibility, not to encourage is how the people surrounding you is encouraging. So what are you seeing around you? What is your environment?
Yeah.
Okay, so see, your environment is, as I said before, if in your family the environment that the people get a Coke, whatever, sorry, for the brand, any soft drink or whatever, and get the plastic and they throw it away. Okay, and or get a piece of paper when these people go. So like yesterday, I walk every day, and somebody get the small piece of paper, whatever, because maybe he was eating something and throw it. So you don't tell that. You see, sometimes you have to confront people. It's hard. You see, I told these people yesterday, somebody said, can you please, they said, sorry, it's, you lost something. You know, I said very, very mild. They said, sorry, because something fall. They said, so the guy, you know, get look at me, they said, okay, get the paper, no? You see, it is, you don't have from the very inner circle, and that people who teach you how to little by little, so you grew up in that thing. So you later, when you go to the school, which is the next step, you're already, you know, little by little, you are already starting with it. So it's so you cannot teach people, I mean, to be good people if later you are coming back to your home and you don't find there the proper rules of the game. So the social responsibility, it's to me, it's number, as I said before, it's ethical matter. It's an ethical matter. So if the ethics are not being kept in the proper way, that's, I mean, the rest of the thing is so difficult to find. I mean, how can you go in the environment, you know, which is what are the principles, environment, that's very nice, and we must all cooperate. But as I said, I mean, you see somebody throwing a paper or throwing a soft drink or whatever in the street, we have to stand up.
Yeah.
There is no other way.
Yes.
There is no other way.
Right.
It's hard. It's hard, I know, because I mean, you can expect somebody to tell you do it yourself. You see, or when you walk in the park and you see somebody with the pet, and the pet is it's doing whatever, so you have to look at it, and there's somebody, the owner or whoever it is, or the caretaker, and do something. No?
Okay.
So that's I don't know, but what else I can tell you, no? But these things definitely has to be done with much perseverance. You see, there is no other way. That's persistence. And later, you know, you have to use some sort of, I would say, some perspicacity. Have to play a little bit. You have to be a little bit. They say it in Tagalog, like in Spanish. You have to be a little bit pillo sometimes. So you have to not to offend anybody, but at the same time, they know that you are there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Partner, sige. Ayan.
So, Sir Beba, thank you so much for your time. We were so encouraged and inspired
It's our pleasure.
by everything you said, words of wisdom and quotable quotes. We're gonna put that in BCYF's page. Sir, do you have any social media at the moment?
No.
Okay. I know.
Okay.
Okay.
No. I just decided some time ago that I entered before, of course,
Opo.
like anybody else. But I found it not useful. I am a very practical person.
Okay.
I'm a practical person. So things that are useful or not useful. In my case, I found that it was not useful enough. So if I don't get any
I understand, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's the story. So, but one thing that I do is from time to time I look at how things are going around. Okay. So,
Alright.
so it's also it's very important to check how the world is doing, how your friends are doing.
Okay.
That's the question.
Sir
But
Pep,
no
yeah.
activity.
Okay.
Thank
Sir
you.
Pepe, vaya con Dios, sir.
Muchas gracias. Vaya con Dios también. Hope to see you soon in the Philippines again. Okay, I have to leave, this week. So unfortunately, I have to do my work back in Spain.
Okay,
So
thank
take care, enjoy, and
Thank you so much,
congratulations.
sir.
Congratulations very, very much. You are doing a great job.
Good morning, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
so much, Sir
Thank you
Pepe.
too. Goodbye.
Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ayan po naman si Sir Jose Pepe Rodriguez, Spanish writer and journalist. And thank you sa aking tutor, si Kuya Rod, the partner. O, diba? Ang galing. Partner, wala marinig. Wala, ano siya? Oo. Ayan, naka-unmute, partner. Ay, unmute mo pala. Yun. Okay na? Go ahead, partner.
Okay.
Ayan, okay na.
Ayan, okay. Sorry. Ayun, so, ang dami natin natutunan, partner Jenny. At sana sa mga nakikinig right now, no, let's put it by heart, not just by here in our mind, but also by heart. So, thank you again, Sir Pepe, for your time. And, ayun.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Ayan. Ano pala yun? Ano yun sabi ni Kuya? Muchísimas gracias. Ayan, sa bisita. Salamat. Gracias.
Muchas
Alam mo,
gracias. Thank you very
yan,
much.
Yan, yan ang nakalimutan ko nung nung high school tayo, partner. Wala tayong ganyan eh.
Ako din, hindi ko na naabutan
Spanish,
Hindi ko na
ano?
naabutan ng Spanish.
Pero ang sarap.
So, lumalabas yung age natin, Char.
Char.
kasi yung mga magulang natin, nakaabot pa. So, alam na natin, no,
Di,
na
si Kuya
iba na yung,
Rod.
iba na yung
Oo,
yung
si
natin
Kuya
generation.
Rod, mapapahanga ka dahil diba yun yung mga salita nila, no? Part ng Mindanao.
Sa Bacano and all.
Bacano. Anyway, partner, bakit ganun? Pag ang guest natin magagaling na i-starstruck tayong dalawa, hindi tayo nagsasalita.
Totoo. Naku, pati yung ating second guest this morning,
Ayun,
partner
sige,
Jenny,
sige.
sa Starstruck ka din.
Okay. So, magpapatuloy tayo. May isa pa ho tayong guest ngayon sa umagang ito. Una pa lang yan. At break muna tayo, partner. At abang ho kayo ha, magbabalik po agad ang programang
Kwentong Bayani.
Oras 10:32 in the morning.
That time check was brought to you by ACS Manufacturing Corporation, ISO certified world-class quality.
ACS.
That news was brought to you by ACS Manufacturing Corporation, ISO certified world-class quality.
ACS.
That news was brought to you by ACS Manufacturing Corporation, ISO certified world-class quality.
ACS.
Kamusta kayo? Kaya pa ba? Pasensya na, toxic no? Pula, dilaw, kung ano nung kulay. Pero alam ba nila na ang problema mo? Murang bilihin, pabahay, trabaho, kuryente, tubig, ang dami. Kung gulong-gulo ka na at hanap mo yung peace of mind, halika, magbubon tayo. Maiba naman. Sama-sama tayo sa May 9. Walang higantihan, walang awayan. Hindi kita iiwan. Isko Moreno po sa pagkapangulo.
Isko Moreno Dumagoso for President, number 3 sa balota. This is a paid advertisement. Political advertisement is paid for and by Francisco Moreno Dumagoso, 319A Younger Street, Barangay 137, Zone 12, Tondo, Manila.
Sunfall Vitamin C, ang alkaline ng vitamin C.
Ako si Julia, lagi ako nagkaka-rashes dahil sa aking allergy. Nang sinubukan ko ang Santon Vitamin C, hindi na ako sinusumpong ng aking mga allergy.
Sunfall Vitamin C, ang alkaline ng vitamin C. Mabibili sa pinakamalapit na butika sa inyong lugar.
Sa Metro Manila, DZXL.
Radyo, trabaho,
DZXL.
ang tunay na gabay sa hanap buhay. Kwentong Bayani. Kwentong Bayani. Kasama si Jojo Armenta at Radyoman Jenny Pahilanga sa Kwentong Bayani.
Balik po tayo. Oras natin 10:34 in the morning. Partner, balik tayo para sa ating second guest.
Yes, good morning po muli sa ating mga nakikinig ngayong umagang na Sabadong ito. Nako, unang guest pa lang natin yan, partner Jenny. Sobrang dami na nating nakuhang aral. No? Clear ba ako, partner Jenny?
Very clear. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So, pakilala ko na ang ating pangalawang panauhin ngayong umaga.
Go ahead.
So, ang ating second guest ay Vice Chairman and Acting Dean of the Manila Times College, the National Book Development Board, appointed by President Roa Duterte to 2019 to 2022. Actually, he was elected chairman noong March 2020. He has a worldly outlook, having lived in 3 countries and traveled to more than a dozen others in North America, Europe, and Asia. He lives a well-rounded lifestyle, balancing hard work with hard play, corporate work, and civic duties. The President and Chief Executive Officer ng Manila Times from 2005 until present. Our second guest for this morning is no other than Mr. Dante Ang II. Good morning, Sir Dante.
Hi, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat, and thank you for having me on your program.
Hi, Sir Dante. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Should we call you Sir Dante or Sir Clink?
Just Clink or Dante is fine. No, it's fine. Huwag lang darling kasi para sa misis ko yun.
Okay po, noted yan kay partner Jay.
Just Clink's fine.
Sir Clink, kamusta po kayo?
I'm okay, thank you. Just busy because of the elections, and the weekends I normally devote to writing editorials, so buti na nakapagsulat ako na mas maaga today.
Oo nga po. We can see that you have lots of books at your back.
Okay, sige partner, umpisahan mo na. Ayan, with our question.
So sir, our first question is, what's your personal advocacy?
Well, my main preoccupation is, of course, the Manila Times. I'm now chairman of it and CEO. So the purpose of Manila Times really is to make the paper indispensable to Filipinos in making major decisions, whether it be for their personal lives or for policy work. And of course, reading any newspaper entails reading. So I've been quite involved in promoting reading among young people. And it doesn't really matter what they read, as long as I think they read the book often and consistently, and I think that will help young people, especially in developing good character at saka abilities, such as important abilities such as critical thinking at saka a way to adapt to all of the disruptions that we're seeing today.
Okay. Sir, maganda itong tanong natin na ito para sa inyo, para malaman din po na ating mga nakikinig at nanonood. Live po tayo sa RMN DZXL 558 Manila po at YouTube pala, partner and sir. Pwede po ibahagi nyo sa amin yung journey po ninyo as a media practitioner, and what made you stay po in the path, sir?
Well, I was born into it because my father was a publisher. Matagal siya, in fact, sa radio. I started this career in radio, but later on went into advertising. And then sabi niya, kung makapag-ipon siya ng pera, magtatayo siya ng Jolly. Yun ang ginawa niya. So I grew up around newspapers, magazines. My summers were spent in printing presses. So I guess that convinced me early in life that journalism is a career for me. So when I went to college, that's what I studied, and I eventually became a reporter in Oklahoma, the U.S., for a couple of years after graduation from school in Texas. And despite the fact that my father was trying to discourage me to go into journalism because he said it would be very hard work and with very little pay. But I was very stubborn, and the reason why I stuck with it is because I think I really just like the fact that there's something new every day in news. But today you could be covering climate change, of course, tomorrow the elections, and yes. I think the variety is what really drew me in, and I think there's a little bit of siguro some enjoyment in seeing your name in print. So that was, I think, really what sealed it. The first time I saw my name in a publication, I knew that was going to be my career.
Oh, that's good. Nice to hear, sir.
Yes. So
partner.
actually, I got curious, no, kasi you mentioned that you've also worked in other country, and I read earlier in your introduction that you've also been traveling like around the world, though. What can you say are the best practices of the media or the traditional media in the Philippines among other media in other countries?
I think the having worked with American and Filipino journalists, I think the level, the caliber is similar. I think we're very competitive in that. The situation in the Philippines is different. So the politicians, the personalities are more accessible. Not all of the time, but they're more accessible here than they are in the U.S. or Canada or elsewhere. I've seen, where they really control access to people. I mean, you can't get close to the U.S. president, but no matter how you try, but there's a way to do that here. I mean, it just takes some resourcefulness really on the part of the journalists. If they're really committed to trying to interview someone, there's always a way here. And that's something that's not always possible else.
Right.
But anyway, sir, based on your experiences po, what's the best thing being about, being a media practitioner, sir?
Well, it all boils down to, I think, what your personal preferences are. What gives your life meaning. My dad early on, when I was still in high school, was telling me that life as a journalist will be very tough and very challenging, and really, it doesn't really matter if you like what you're doing. There's a famous quote that says, find your passion and you don't have to work the rest of your life. So I mean that I'm lucky enough that I discovered that early in life. Of course, not everybody will enjoy what I do. I mean, they will. And which is good, because we need all sorts of professionals in society. We can't be all journalists. Some of us have to be doctors. Otherwise, no one will treat us when we're sick. Or we need engineers and politicians and other professionals. So, but I think what's important is that you like what you do. You see that it gives meaning to your life, and that you see somehow that you're making some contribution. And the contribution that I think every journalist makes, it's not just reporting the news, but helping people understand what's going on in the world, and then allowing them to make decisions for themselves and not relying on government to tell you, well, this is what you vote for, this is who you vote for, this is what you do. You can think independently.
Right, I agree with that. Sir, speaking of contribution, what do you think naman is the role of media in creating social impact in the society?
Well, it's huge. Media doesn't only mirror what's going on in society. Media has also been known to change perceptions, even values, culture. So I think if we are collectively aspiring to become a better country, the Philippines, wanting a better Philippines, where things are more equal, life is prosperous, right? And I think every sector in society, media included, will have to make a contribution.
Right.
Ito maganda itong tanong natin na ito. Ihabol lang natin, partner, kanina, Pero personally po, sir, like lalo nga sa mga young people natin, mga kabataan natin, very active ngayon, personally po, in your current profession, how do you think po you can encourage people, especially our young people right now, to become socially responsible, sir?
Well, I think they have to be aware of what's going on in the first place, right? You want responsible behavior, but responsible behavior towards what? But you need to find out what the issues are, and you do that by following the news, understanding the issues. I think these days, especially with the election just around the corner, sometimes we tend to find ourselves in echo chambers and we don't get the larger picture. And so I think that number one is to be aware. Well, what are the issues? I mean, because if you don't have a grasp of what the problem is, then you don't make any actions towards coming up with a solution.
That's right.
Right. Sir, based on because you've been here for so many years, no? Can you share to us one or few of the most memorable thing that you have experienced with, as a journalist or as a media practitioner, that you can share to us that you think na nag-create talaga ng social impact?
Well, I think one of the major things that major advocacies of the Manila Times is environment, and we very early on reached out to partner with Halibon Foundation, and eventually I'm vice chairman of Halibon now. But this was before people were really talking about climate change and the importance of biodiversity. And even now, people are keen to do something for the environment. Also, ngayon yung halimbawa, you plant trees. But we try to educate people on the right way to plant trees, because you should know what you're doing will have an impact. If you decide to plant foreign species of trees, for instance, I mean that will have a negative impact. Whereas the point of doing that activity is to have some benefits, diba? So I think just greater information, understanding, not just of environment. I think what I really enjoy and this continuing challenge is to help people understand issues, policies, so that they craft better opinions, and in the end, I think make better judgments. It's not a single thing, unfortunately. It's not a single act. It's with newspapers especially, it's a daily thing. Diba? Sabi nga nila, we're only as good as today's newspaper. Then if tomorrow's a brand new ball game.
Yes.
Okay.
So, sir, I also read that Manila Times has been awarded in Newspaper of the Year for volunteers against crime and corruption in 2016. If I correct me if I'm wrong. What made Manila Times won that award?
Well, I think we actually won it twice. The one with President Duterte, I think showed that. Well, according to the organizers, that we were willing, we were, I think, more than our competitors, I think, presented a more balanced views of the events. I think the perception there's a lot of bias out there, and that Manila Times, we try to have balanced views. It's not easy. In fact, it's a constant effort, just trying to find different views. We have some people, for example, who are very pro BBM. We have some who are pro Lenny. We have some who are others, diba? And it's not always easy to find the same caliber of writers who support their particular political camp. But it's an effort, and I think that's what the VACC was trying to recognize. At least that effort to try to be balanced.
Okay. Siguro, tanongin natin siya about the issue naman po. Sir, would you like to share with us the issue po? Ito, very trending to ngayon. Dami nitong nagkalat. Sir, fake news. May babahagi mo sa amin dyan. Makaiwas kami dyan. Yung ating mga listeners and viewers, mga kasama po natin, kababayan, sir.
Well, una, siguro, hindi tayo dapat siguro masyadong mag-alala because matagal na itong fake news.
Yes.
In fact, I wrote an editorial last week. Now, one of the earliest examples came out in 1895. The New York Sun came out with a series of articles saying that an astronomer had seen creatures living on the moon. And of course, ginawa yan ng New York Sun to bolster their circulation. And they did. Pero, we're still here. Hindi naman gumuho yung mundo. We adjusted to it. And you know what? Media has been studied many, many times over the past 100 years. I think the very first one came out with this theory called the hypodermic needle theory, saying that if people see something in the news, particularly in cinema at the time, that would be the ideas would be directly injected to thoughts. it turned out to be inconsistent, and even subsequent studies contradicted those claims. In fact, in the editorial I wrote, there was a study done in the U.S. done by the Federal Trade Commission. This is the local equivalent of the NTC. They studied something like 10,000 children, and they were concerned about the impact of commercials, TV commercials on children. And they were saying that children were exposed to as many as 3 hours of commercials per week, and this is in the 1970s. And that's true. Children did confuse commercials with news content. Pero by age 12 or grade 6 yata yun, children learn how to be cynical about commercials. So the point I'm trying to make is every time there's new media when new media becomes popular, there's always a period of adjustment. And I think eventually, the more we are exposed to it, I think the more ability we develop to separate the news from propaganda, which is what fake news is. No, there's even some misunderstanding about fake news, because you shouldn't be equating fake news with mistakes that journalists make, because the news cycles are very quick. I think fake news has to be separate or grouped with propaganda or other intentional means to deceive people. And people will learn to adjust. Some say that it's hard now because of the algorithms now of social media. But I think I'm confident in the ability of people to adjust. When magazines first became popular, I don't know if you guys know this. Before the 19th century, they carried a lot of ads for patent medicines. Patent medicines were cure-alls, and some of them were recommended for babies, but unfortunately they contain cocaine and other harmful alcohol or harmful products. But later on, this led to the establishment of the Food and Drug Administration in the U.S. So people adjusted. So, and I think today fake news is not a new phenomenon. We've had this for generations, not just in the past 100 years. If you look at Philippine history, there was a lot of fake news going on about the Spanish-American War because of the rivalry between Mr. Pulitzer and Mr. William Randolph Hearst. They were vying for circulation in New York. And the more, they were outdoing each other in coming up with sensational stories that eventually led to the Spanish-American War that was the reason for America coming to the Philippines. And yet, so, I don't know, history works itself out. And if we look at the history, things will work itself out. But I do think that it's important for us to try to listen to other points of views, make an effort to listen to views that we find disagreeable. I would concede that it's hard today because I myself, if I follow a particular candidate, I have to make an effort to follow a rival candidate just so I'm not, I suppose, brainwashed by the messaging of a particular camp, diba? And I think it's important not just for journalists but for every person to try to do that to some degree. Long ago, a former boss of mine told me it's important to hear views that you disagree with, even if they are unpleasant. It's important for you to listen to another point of view, just to form your own opinions and positions on certain things.
Okay. Marcus?
So tayo siguro masyadong stress sa fake news. Matagal na yan.
Oo nga.
There's an easy workaround, way around it. And a healthy mind really is a curious mind. Is it totoo ba yan? Just asking, is that real? Just checking the source.
Yeah.
It's an important thing.
Yes. Thank you, sir, for clarifying that. It's very important for people to know that perspective from a journalist. Then, sir, I forgot to ask you earlier. How did you get involved, or the Manila Times? How did Manila Times get involved with BCYF?
BCYF is I'm sorry.
Benita and Catalina Foundation.
To be honest, I don't know. We partner with so many organizations. To be honest with you, I have someone else looking at different partnerships. I can't give you an answer because I honestly don't know.
Yeah, but we're so happy and grateful that Manila Times has been a media partner of BCYF for several awards, several activities and programs.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your cooperation.
Yeah, we're just happy if people want us to involve, and it's not whatever cause they have, we're happy to partner with you. I think we're always glad to meet new people, and we're always keen on building bridges with different groups.
Okay. Siguro, sir, sa pagkakataong to, hingan na lang po namin kayo kung meron po kayong gustong i-promote sa social media po, or social platforms para po maibigay nyo sa amin. Go ahead, sir. Paki-promote na lang po. Ayan.
Well, siguro, hindi natin yung pagkailan na yung election is around the corner.
Yes.
So siguro, ang masasabi ko lang, pumili tayo na maigi, basahin natin yung mga plataforma nila, yung mga background nila. Sana kasama yung Manila Times sa babasahin nila, but siguro importante magbasa tayo rin ng Inquirer, ng Star, ng Bulletin, ng RM, makinig tayo sa RMN, sa iba-iba pa, para lang to have I think a good grasp of things. Sabi ko kanina, hindi ka lang dapat nagbabasa o nakikinig dun sa mga kagrupo mo. Importante rin na makinig ka dun sa mga hindi sumasang-ayon sa iyo para lang magkaroon pa ng iba pang perspective. At saka matiyak mo din na tama ba yung iniisip mo. Wala ka bang iba nakakalimutan. And I think if we exercise that, for the coming elections, I'm confident that regardless of the outcome, I'm confident that the Philippines will realize its objectives. Mas magandang buhay, maraming trabaho, maginhawa para sa atin. Yun lang siguro, huwag tayo basta-basta pumili, diba? Basahin natin, alamin natin lahat ng malalaman natin sa bawat isa't isa, and then piliin natin yung sa tingin nyo, sa personal na tingin nyo, kung sino yung nararapat na mamuno sa atin.
Okay. Thank you po, sir. And have a nice
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Clink.
Thank you again for having me in your program, and good luck to all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you po. Be safe.
Thank you.
Salamat.
At yan, partner si Sir Dante Francis Ang II. Sir Clink, Ayan, sa Chairman and CEO po ng The Manila Times. Naku, partner, ang gagaling na ating mga guests for this morning, but we're running out of time. Partner, meron kang gustong i-announce? Go ahead sa BCYF bago tayo magpaalam.
Yes, of course. Darating na ito na ang huling April. Today is the last day. It's the last Saturday of the month. Next month, we are going to prepare for the Media Month, which is on June. Mm-hmm. So expect niyo po ng ating mga guests, ang ating mga topics for the whole month of May will be all about related to media or even social media. Actually, kasi very important to talk about that, especially now that the current situation of what's happening in the society. I think very crucial na pag-usapan natin yan, partner Jenny.
Yeah. And I'm so excited to be with you live next Saturday. Please. First Saturday of May, magkasama tayo. And bisitahin nila, partner, ang inyong social media account. Go ahead.
So, iniimbitahan ko po kayo i-like at follow ang aming social media pages. Meron kami sa Facebook, BCY Foundation. You can also check out our website, www.bcyfoundation.org. And also, meron ding YouTube channel, upcoming BCYF TV. I'm still organizing that and fixing that. Magkakaroon ng BCYF TV for all the programs and also for all the activities that we're having in the foundation. Also pala next week, partner Jenny, I'm gonna be there live.
Yes.
Magkakasama tayo. Since it's the Saturday before the election, which is on May 9, we are going to invite people who would encourage us to be calm, we're gonna talk about election, but not particularly about the candidates.
Yeah.
So, mentally, to prepare us mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So, yan ang pag-uusapan natin next week. Kaya, excited na ako, abangan niyo po yan.
See you. Abangan ka namin ni Kuya Rod. And with that, partner, maraming salamat sa ating mga panohin. Tayo magpapaalam.
Yes, nako, maraming salamat po sa patuloy na panonood at suporta dito sa aming programa every Saturday. Nawawag po kayong magsawa at patuloy niyong i-share ang aming programa sa inyong social media pages. Mula from BCYF, ako po si Jojo Armenta.
At pala naman po sa RMN, DZXL 558 Manila. Ako po si Jenny Pahilanga. Partner, next time uli, next Saturday. Maraming salamat. Sa susunod po muling Sabado, dito lamang sa programang Kwentong
Bayani.
Pabili nga ng dishwashing liquid. Yung kalamansi, ha?
1,000 pesos.
What?
Kasama doctor's fees at antibiotic.
Misis, kapag kalamansi dishwashing liquid ang hanap mo, dapat smart ka. Smart dishwashing liquid. Mapakalamansi o lemon man, parehong may antibac. May double tanggaling formula. Tanggal galing ang sebo at bakterya.
Doon na ako sa kalamansi. May antibac. Smart dishwashing liquid. Tanggalin-galing.
Smart dishwashing liquid. Manufactured by ACS Manufacturing Corporation. ISO certified. World-class quality.
ACS.
God so loved you, He sent Jesus to die for you. Believe in Him, and you will not perish, but have eternal life. John 3:16. God is calling you. Isang tawag mula sa MX3, ang tagapaghatid ng magandang balita.
DZXL News Break.
Magandang umaga mga kasama. Narito na mga balita sa oras na ito. Mga ahensya ng gobyerno pinagtitipid ng isang senador sa konsumo ng kuryente. Kasama natin sa balitang yan sa XL Radyoman 1, Grace Mariano.
Nananawagan si Committee on Energy Chairman Senator Win Gatchalian sa lahat ng mga ahensya ng gobyerno, kabilang ang local government units na sumunod sa mandatory in energy efficiency at conservation measures. Ito ay sa harap ng nakambang pagkulang ng reserbang kuryente mula sa Luzon Grid at Visayas Grid ngayong tag-init. Git ni Gatchalian, ang gobyerno ay dapat manguna sa pagsunod sa mga probisyon ng Energy Efficiency and Conservation o EEC Act hinggil sa paggamit at pagtitipid ng kuryente at enerhiya. Iniuutos ng batas ang pagpapatupad ng Government Energy Management Program na naglalayong mabawasan ang buwanang konsumo sa kuryente ng mga tanggapan ng pamahalaan at gasolina ng kanilang mga sasakyan. Ayon kay Gatchalian, sakop nito ang government-owned and controlled corporations, government financial institutions, din ng state universities and colleges at mga local government units. Binanggit din ni Gatchalian ang resolusyong inilabas noong 2020 ng Interagency Energy Efficiency and Conservation Committee na nagsasabing dapat magtalaga ng isang Energy Efficiency and Conservation Officer sa bawat tanggapan ng gobyerno upang pamunuan ang mga estratehiya ng pagtitipid sa kuryente. Kasama mo sa Senado, Radyoman 1, Grace Mariano, Tatak Arimen, DZXL 558.
Samantala, pagsasampa naman ang kaso laban sa big-time agricultural smugglers, pinaplansya na ng DOJ. Kasama natin sa balitang yan si XL Radyoman 2, Joyce Adra.
Nagsasagawa na ng masusing pag-aaral ang Department of Justice sa pagsasampa ng kasong economic sabotage laban sa large-scale agriculture smugglers sa bansa. Ayon kay Justice Undersecretary Adrian Sugay, malawak ang epekto sa ekonomiya ng smuggling lalo na't nalulugi na ang local farmers dahil sa mga smuggled na agricultural products. Sinisilip na rin ng DOJ kung may pending cases ang smugglers ng agricultural products para mapabilis ang proceeding. Inatasan na rin ni Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara ang NBI para imbestigahan ang smuggling activities sa bansa. Inihikayat na rin na Secretary Guevara ang Department of Agriculture na maghain ng reklamo laban sa smugglers. Kasama mo sa Department of Justice, Radyoman 2, Choice Collantes Adra, Tatak Arimen, DZXL 558.
Vice Presidential Aspirant Senator Tito Soto, tiwalang malaki ang makukuhang boto sa Cebu. Kasama natin sa balitang yan si XL Radyoman 3, Silvestre Labay.
Naniniwala si Vice Presidential Candidate Vicente Tito Soto III na malaki ang makukuha niyang boto sa Cebu City dahil sa siya lang ang tanging Vice Presidential Candidate na tubong sa nasabing lalawigan. Si Soto ay magbalik sa Cebu dahil sa pag-endorso at pagsuporta sa kanya ng lahat ng 7 mayor ng ika-7 distrito ng lalawigan, kasama na ang lahat ng mga lokal na opisyal ng naturang distrito. Ayon kay Soto, umaasa siya na mapipili pa rin ng mga ito ang kanyang running mate na si Presidential Candidate Senator Panfilo Ping Lacson kahit na magkakaiba ang kandidato sa pagkapangulo ng mga naturang opisyal. Anya, naniniwala din siya na may iba pang mga lokal na opisyal na tahimik na sinusuportahan ang kanyang kandidatura. Sinabi rin ni Soto na pagdalo niya sa isang pagtitipon ng mga grupo ng mga kababayan na angat sila ni Lacson sa usapin ng karanasan at kakayahan. Kasama mo sa Lacson Soto Tandem, Rod Jumantres, Silvestre Labay, Tatak, RMM, DZXL, 588.
At yan po ang mga balita sa oras na ito. I-viral ang totoong balita at going trending ang mahalaga impormasyon sa bawat Pilipino. Pag-like ang aming Facebook page, RMN DZXL 558 Manila, at i-like and subscribe ang aming YouTube channel, DZXL 558. Ako po ang inyong Radyoman 4, Angel Ranquillo, Tatak Arimen. Ang oras, mga kasama, Tatak 11:05 na magandang umaga.